There we go. I have actually one breakout session in there, but the breakout session is actually more meant, I wanted to try one of these Miro boards that I have actually found. I don't know if anybody has tried this out, but I had it in another talk before. We all worked on a Miro board. It was actually pretty cool. And Google has something similar too. So these kind of whiteboards for working together. So anyway, so lecture number 6 today. I have, this is what we were supposed to do. So we'll have a presentation in a second. And I have taken on the first one from Moritz. I just copied it so you don't have to necessarily present, but you can actually talk. Moritz, and maybe give some updates on what you have done, what you have learned, and or Holger or whoever wants to do it. Whose project is it? It's Moritz's, right?
Okay, so we will do it together, I think.
Okay.
I mean, mainly
Or I can also participate. I mean, that's all fine.
I invite everybody of my group to participate if they want.
Good.
So basically for the MTP, the mission and the vision, we took your advice and feedback from the last lecture to improve it. So the MTP is more broad now. So previously it was creating a new perception in surgery, and we opened it up to medicine. We specified the mission a little bit more. So we basically mention what exactly we want to improve, or what we want to improve now in our first mission, and how we want to accomplish that. And I think we also changed the vision. I don't have it in my mind what it was previously, but the vision is now to be the market leader for all the applications in the healthcare sector. So since we have so many applications, not only in surgery, we opened that up to and named it healthcare sector. In the next point, you see the purpose launchpad that we did this week. I think it's pretty clear that we have to work on metrics, for example. This is the...
Yeah, but metrics could also become later. You know, it makes sense that it's there because you need to define then maybe questionnaires, number of customers you talk to. You need to define your own metrics. I think what's more important here is that you actually check viability and customer.
Okay.
Yeah. Now metrics will come. It's not necessarily that you always have to get everything up there, but you should think about metrics, and then you should be able to actually apply these metrics while you go out and check the customer. So you have customer questionnaires. So that's one of the metrics you could have. I want to get 10 questionnaires done. I want to get this and this information. So start yourself, giving yourself some metrics that would actually give you some feedback. And would improve your plan. I think I thought you had some metrics you wanted to work on.
Yeah, exactly. That's in the next steps. So
we will focus here on the objective key results and on the pirate funnel, because according to the project, we can directly focus on the important things in our.
These are all metrics, so that's good.
Yeah, that's why we decided to go for this to check up or to improve the assumptions for metrics, and that's why we decided for those both.
And the metrics always come because you cannot have metrics without actually having a questionnaire. The questionnaire means you have to go to the customer and you have to actually work on the customer, so you can change your value proposition later on once you find out. So these are important feedbacks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This comes in customer experiment later on. At first we built an MVP just last week. No, of course not. This is an older one, but it is a mock-up basically of our sensor that we can easily attach to this Varus needle in this case. So it's attached within some seconds, and while the needle is inserted, it can give feedback with those 3 traffic light system LEDs. to give a signal to the surgeon when he has entered the cavity and when he has to stop inserting the needle. So it's the most important features are, as I mentioned, that it's add-on and easy to use. So it can be added with really quickly.
You actually should change the lights.
Definitely, yeah.
You have to oppose the lights. You know, they have to start with the red and then on the bottom, because that's how you look, right?
Yeah, I think the same. There are even standards for that, I think.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this was a really early one.
Yeah, that's fine. This was just more fun. Yeah.
So it provides unambiguous feedback and thereby minimizes the complications and is a cost-efficient mean to improve efficiency of those surgeries also.
Now, what you need to find out is, you mentioned cost efficiency.
Yeah.
Now, what you do right now is you make everything more expensive. You don't make it cheaper, you make it more expensive.
Yeah.
But the question is, what do you save? So you save complication time, you save time. So you need to find out what is the value of what you offer to the customer. That would be a very important thing to also clear this part with viability. Like, is it business-wise viable? So what is the value to what you offer?
Yeah, we need to.
This is a very important thing that you need to find out.
And maybe also, what is the mean between things we put in and things we get out? So to put them, in a status that we can compare what is needed and what from our side and what is needed from the customer side.
Yeah, and you also need to play through some workflows, because what happens is that he's not using the Varus needle. He has to attach the sensor, he has to turn on the computer, so that there's a workflow issue with it too.
Maybe this we have included in our customer survey or in the experiment, where we then prepare a phantom with different tissue borders that you had also then for the follow-up from the questions or from the questionnaire, that you have the same experience with and one time with the tool or the surgical audio guidance and one time without. And then you have the direct comparison, and based on this, we can go in detail with our questionnaire and ask him if he can guide efficiently and more time effective. If the feedback, the audio feedback is sufficient, or do the customer need a haptic feedback or something else, what gives him the sign for the right tissue entrance.
But this is an important point, because you now need to actually look forward also a little bit. What will happen in 5 years? Will surgery still be the same? Will there be more robotic surgery?
There will be
different. So these are important things that you can already plan in.
Yeah, these are things what we have done for the customer journey, that we are also focusing not just on this needle procedures and needle guidance or spinal anesthesia or what else is common for needle procedures where you have different tissue borders. It is also to bring a feedback system for robotic surgeries, that you have a 360-degree navigation based on audio evaluation of the tissue.
And then the question comes, of course, on whether audio is actually important at all. Not meaning from the sensing point of view. I'm meaning more from the display translation point of view. What is really an important sense? You may use audio to pick up a signal, but we don't know exactly how to translate. That's actually an important thing you need to find out for Surag anyway, is what is the user interface, right?
Yeah. This is supposed to be my part, and I'm working on that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for the future, we do something. All right. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think we had our learnings, maybe that we need to focus more on our customers' needs.
We developed a proposition canvas and worked on these to improve our statements from the first time. So in an iterative process to get further in our assumptions there. And Yeah, that's it, I think.
Cool. Now I am now the next one that comes is the one from group 2, and it's very interesting because you guys actually approaching it from a different point of view, and you both can learn from each other. I think you have done a very good job, team 1, of being very structured. We have to say though, you have a little bit of an advantage because you're already working on Zurich for a while, and so it is a little bit of an advantage. On the other hand, I think what the group with Christoph, Rutusha, Anna, and Beatrice are doing is that they are integrating now some visual components, which are very interesting and very helpful. Now, Beatrice, I'm just addressing you right now, but it could be anybody from your group. I only took out the parts that I thought would fit on this one page. If you want to show the whole thing that you did, I think it was like 6 or 7 pages. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can do that, or you limit yourself to this one. That's fine by me too. What I would like to see in the future, by the way, is I'd like to see how these things develop. These launchpad graphs. So what was it week 1? What was it week 2? What was it week 3? Just to see the progress. I am not, and the goal is not to make them look nice and to make them always increase. The goal is to learn. And very often I've done this with another group. You actually have a setback. You actually fall back, and your next assessment will look worse than the first one. That's absolutely normal. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not the goal of this class to make a pretty graph. It's a goal to have a realistic approach and to really learn something. And if you have some gaps and then you do something and you find out, oh shit, I think I don't even understand my customer, then you will fall back and it will look worse the next time. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually good because now you have to work on your customer. So do you want to say something? I don't know, anybody from that group?
I mean, the only thing I can say that maybe also this time some models can present the project. I mean, we cannot really do so many progresses because, for example, from last week, what we could improve was related maybe to the product itself, or the idea, the vision, the MTP, for example, or for example, the Canva, the empathy canvas or the team canvas. But the Launchpad assessment, it looks the same. Actually, it's the same.
Sure, that's all right.
Because we can't really test our idea on customers yet. We don't have a product itself.
But Beatrice, that's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why you need to come up with a minimal viable product. This is what I say, this cartoon, for example, or some descriptor where you can tell people, this is what I want to do. This is what that thing can do. You just claim. I mean, you don't have to prove anything. You just say, this is what it's going to do. And then you try to find out what are the comments from the customers? What do they think about that? And also you try to find out, is it actually of any value to them? Do they think that is something they would use, they would ask for, they would be very enthusiastic about? I mean, there's companies out there that have built fake websites just to check on whether a potential product that they were thinking of would be attractive to customers. They have actually had an order line and they said, you can order it right now for $25 or euros. And they just wanted to see whether actually people would be willing to spend 25 euros for it. They had no product at all. It's basically checking things out and getting verifications. And you need to somehow have something in your hands in that way, in something as pictures, for example, where you can actually communicate with customers. That's why it's important to have this one page, this one sentence statement. This is what I want to do. And by the way, here's a picture. And you know what that thing does? It actually does. Now you list your value propositions and you try to find out which of the value propositions is the most important ones to the customer. Because that is, and remember the blue ocean approach, you try to focus the development on the most important features. Which is the most important thing? Why develop the air conditioning on a car if nobody gives a damn about it? Yeah, you can do the air conditioning later. Do the things that are most important right now. And this is the experiments. This is what you need to find out now. And you can actually do experiments. not real experiments where you have an exobot running around, but an experiment where you where you basically go forward. Christoph, you have a question?
Yes. So what about, like you said, we should advertise it and see the customer's reaction. So what about we do like a little presentation, like a cartoon or a picture or a data sheet, and we post it on our profiles, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and see how the reactions are?
That one you can do, but you need to now it's a how would I say this? It's by accident. Things are happening by accident. Somebody happens to go to your website. You need to actually somehow address your potential customers. Now, the people who are on your Facebook page are probably not the customers for the Exobot, right?
That's, I think, one problem of our model. Like, it's actually designed for real habitation, but we're already thinking about spreading it around and using it as a multiple.
Why don't I give you guys like a couple of I give you a couple of names. So look at the company Munevo. Yeah, Munevo is doing wheelchairs, and they have glasses to steer wheelchairs. Now, what does it have to do with exobots? Well, everybody in a wheelchair is possibly a customer for an exobot, right?
Yep.
So why don't you talk to the CEO of this company and get an idea, get a feedback? That would be something. Yeah. So I later on I'll drop the email address in the chat in the WhatsApp. Just contact him and just have a little time with it. Just tell him you come from me. I'm a shareholder of this company, so he has to take some time for you, right? So that you want to take 10 or 15 minutes with him, and then you want to introduce it and you want to get his advice. You do the same thing with some other people. Yeah, so try to find people that have some form of relevance to that, but you cannot just say, by the way, I'm trying to call you, I want to find something out. I have something for you. You need to give them something back too. People like to learn. Yeah, and then you need to, based on that, you need to have a clear understanding of what you want to ask that person and what is the relevance of this question to you. The question needs to be, remember the how might we approach? How might we do things? How might we actually do this design? How might we actually find out who our customer is? Not who's our customer, isn't that our customer? So, but try to find the right approach and the right questions you can ask. Okay, so what is your learning, Beatrice or Christoph or Anna? Rutucha is not here. Anna has to say something too. What have you learned, Anna?
Yeah, we have some learnings on the product definition, but okay, this is not exactly a learning, it's more detailed information. Yeah, good question. I think this blue ocean versus red ocean was engaged in interesting discussion where we learned much from or about our product, because we were thinking about, okay, if we go to the market, we have an innovative product that is completely new, but will we still be like secure, because, or will the competitors come fast? So we didn't came to a completely new solution, but it was interesting and nice insights there.
Okay, let's just keep it up. I think that's what I'm trying to say. You will only get good at that, and you will only have a really good product at the end of the day that understands the problem. Not having a cool solution that not addressing any problem. You need to dive into the problem. And the problem with the value innovation from Blue Ocean, I think, is a very important one. You can always combine these things. So if you have the value proposition canvas, which says, this is my statement, this is the job, I understand what you guys need to get done. And then you try to find out, are my assumptions right or are they not right? Then I correct them. Then I actually try to formulate the highest priorities. That's why this elevator pitch sentence comes together. And then I focus my developments and my minimal viable product design on these highest priorities. Now, it could be wrong. The question is, how many customers do you need to talk to? I don't know. Now, when you have a new approach, something completely new, maybe this Exobot or the Surak is both completely new, people need to first understand what you're really talking about and what the benefits of that would be. And then and I think, Moritz, you're right with your approach. You need to create some form of phantom and some form of way that they can actually experience it. They need to find out, and then you probably need to have, when you are further on with your product, you need to probably have some key customers, some very good ones who use it. And they say, I cannot live without Surak anymore. I think Surak has actually changed my perception, right? And that's the next step then. But we're not going to get to this part. This is then the implementation phase. That's that BioLet phase. But it just give you the starting point, focus on the problem, and then hopefully gives you the right tools on hand to actually go forward. Anything else Group 2 wants to say? Because I cut you guys short with your 6 or 7 pages. Anything else important you want to say that I did not copy out here?
I don't know, maybe also with the table of the empathy canvas, we understood better maybe the customer itself, like the pain in the gain. So, okay, we make a product, but we make a product based on the customer. So we identify the customer first, and then we go to the product.
Absolutely.
And then we try to see the perspective of having the product in another country, for example, in Ethiopia or in India, where there are other needs. So we were trying to see, okay, let's think about India or Ethiopia. Is still useful our product? Can we still sell, let's say, our product in this market or not? And in case of yes, what can we change? What can we do instead of? So yeah, we try to see the product in different perspectives.
You know what comes in now when you really think exponential now, and not necessarily in terms of exponential, how do I make exponentially more money, but what kind of attributes can I use to make this product viable? You could, for example, think about, like, the Exobot is an ideal example for that. An Exobot is going for people that probably they can't walk anymore, but you give them a new tool. There's a lot of social entrepreneurship, social innovation around it. You can maybe get to a crowdfunding platform where you say, please donate 10 euros each, and then for every 1,000 euros, I can donate one of the Exobots to a client in India. You get a lot of attraction. You get a lot of people involved. You could actually go to, I'm just making an example. You can go to Nestle or to Coca-Cola and say, Coca-Cola, why don't we make following? You give me 1 cent for every Coke bottle that has been sold with this label on, and donate the Exobots. That doesn't cost them anything. It's good advertisement for them. We help as Coca-Cola. We help. These are the ways you have to think. So not just making something and then trying to find a customer. How can you actually make sure you actually get into this market with little effort, and with raising awareness, making things public, and maybe even get a financing scheme in place. So that would be something for India, maybe.
Yeah. And then, as Anna said already, was related to the blue strategy approach. And then yesterday also we did the exercise, for example, thinking in 5, 10, 20 years, what is still, what is changing, what is not. And so we related this to our product.
Cool. Now, I would just advise you to, this is my way of doing it, but you don't have to copy this. I normally start a PowerPoint presentation, not because I want to do a PowerPoint presentation, but because the format of a PowerPoint presentation I like. I just dump everything that I learned in consecutive pages, and I kind of like time them, right? So time 0, I started, and then I'm now at week 4, and I see all the progress that I have done. Next page, next page, next page, next page. And then it's much easier for you also to go back at some point in time and see, oh, I did following change here. That's what I assumed, because I had this customer experiment, and maybe you have to go back to that at some point in time. So try to actually have a documentation that is to a certain extent sequential, where you go back. And that's also easy for you later on to present the learnings based on that. So your perspective, you right now, you still have the problem. You said that yourself. You should actually be a little higher with the people, right? Because you are, to a certain extent, if you do team canvas, you know what is needed. So you should be a little better off on this one. You did an empathy canvas too, right? You said. So that should help you actually formulate something on this one. And then you should actually try to, go to find out of how you are able to actually get to the customer and find out the real values that are needed. And then you will also, add points down at viability and abundance. Okay. And the product definition. So make a minimal viable product or some form of cartoon or something where people really understand what you really want to do rather than explaining heavily. So the technical features are not so important at the moment. What's important is what is the benefit that potential customer has, and how it's been done, for example, is not interesting at the moment. You kind of like assume I get it done. Don't worry how I get it done. It's not your problem, but this is what the thing can do. Yeah. Same thing for Surak. Who cares whether you have advanced AI in there and you do, advanced segmentation and you have all kinds of algorithms and signals? Nobody cares. They only care what is the outcome. Yeah. So nobody cares on how you do it, the tissue characterization. They just say, does it show that when it's liver, it really is liver? That's what they care for. And that's actually what you try to propose to a customer. Now, the engineers among us, they like it, that it's really cool that we have a nice sensor included. But at the end of the day, customers care about the results and, of course, the cost. I'm going to throw you a couple of things at these ones I got this week. And it was a presentation from EIT Health, that's a European institution, and a venture capitalist. And so the venture capitalists used this chart here as kind of like the second page on his PowerPoint presentation to tell people that you should invest in his fund. So he wanted to get people to invest money in that fund so he can then invest it into healthcare startups. So that would be something, Moritz, you need to go to this maybe at some point. I'll send you the address of it. It's Peppermint Ventures in Berlin. And EIT Health and Escovest. So these three, they work together now, and this was addressed to people that would invest in their fund. And so they try to convince these people this is what will happen. And I thought it was very interesting because that's kind of like what we talk about right now. And it's kind of interesting to that these global trends are now finally reaching also the finance sector, because at the moment, when you talk to people in the finance sector, they say, what is the business model? How much money will you make? And sometimes you can't say because you don't know exactly what the model will be, because you have no idea. If you try to do something new, I mean, Beatrice, you don't know what the model for the exobot will look like because there is no exobot right now. You have no idea. So you don't know really. But I think it's communicable that these kind of things will have a market. And sometimes it's not necessarily always completely important to do a business model. I'm also saying this because Surak is always coached by these guys from Tux, right? Who are probably pushing you on the business model. And sometimes you don't know. And this is also from these. From that presentation that you see down here, Klaus Stöckemann, Peppermint Venture Partners. So this is what I took it from. Stöckemann knows me relatively well, so if you want to go and contact him at some point in time and present, I think he'd be interested in it. He's a really nice guy, and he sits in Berlin, so it's not too far away either. So it was also interesting that obviously they all understand now that COVID-19 had a lot of good things for health. The good things, not that you got sick, that's the bad thing about it, but that people are actually apparently able to get medications through not in a 10-year process, but also in a 1-year process, that teleconsultations, telemedicine is something that is really valuable, and that digitization in healthcare has gotten a dramatic push. So there were some good things for it. So there's a lot of things in these mega trends. I just throw you these things out there, all the things that we have discussed already. In the middle is the 3D printed, then we have the brain-computer interfaces, advanced robotics. So those are like some of the mega trends in healthcare, and I think we're addressing some of those. This is interesting. because that shows you a little bit of what happens with funding, because that's interesting from a finance perspective, that people are actually investing significant amounts of money in digital health applications now and in new medtech products. So it used to be, to a certain last few years, it used to be like a little bit stumbling along because the regulatory problems were so hard, but it seems to actually move forward interestingly now. Okay, so you see a little bit what happens with pre-COVID and after COVID. Pre-COVID, there were $3 billion estimated that were done on revenues for telehealth players, and it's assumed it will be 250 billion. That's a factor of almost 100 more, just because of a virus. So anything that had to do with digitalization, digital health has gotten a huge push in the last few months. Okay, I'm going to cut through this one here. Germany. Now, I typically say that Germany is not the right place to start a startup, because we are sometimes very laid back, and in a lot of ways that's true, because reimbursement and the market is really difficult. But we have to say that for digital health solutions, Germany is the first and only country right now where you can get a digital health app on prescription. So you can get actually prescription, go to a doctor, and the doctor gives you a prescription. You can then go to, not to a pharmacy, but you can go to this company and you reimburse. You basically given the prescription, and you get this app to use because it's good for your health, right? It provides a remedy. So we are the only country in the world that have that in the moment. And there is a lot more things happen. It's called the DiGA. That's basically says a digital health app on a prescription base. And there's a lot of things happening now in Germany where we can actually use these kind of devices. And I think even Surak to a certain extent could find. I mean, BodyTune, for example, that one, for the people in Inca know this, the BodyTune one, that could be a digital app where you just go and you basically get a prescription for it. Okay, let me drop through this one. So let me just look, because I had a file where I wanted to show you where we will go from here. So I don't know what happened to it, because I wanted to tell you what we will do in the next week. So this is the last one before Christmas vacation, right? Now I have something I want every one of you individually to also work on a second individual assignment. I have sent it to you to a certain extent already down, but I want to talk about it in a second again. So the next meeting we would have, let's look on our calendars, would be Friday the 15th, is that right? Or Friday the 7th, Friday the 8th. No, Friday the 8th, right? Of January. When is, I don't have a clue when the semesterfreie Zeit is. So what is it?
No, to me, it's fine.
What was that? It doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter for me.
Okay, so let's do following. Let's meet on the 8th, okay? And then we will do this. So everything we did this week, you'll do again next week, right? And then maybe if you have time, you can work on your individual assignment, but your individual assignment is not due on the 8th. It's due at the end of the lecture, right? So take your time, but maybe you have some time and you can think about it and you can finish it up. So that's good for you. You still have the team assignment. You know what the team assignment is, right? Everybody knows it? Nod your head. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, and then we will have the 8th. I think if you want to, we can skip the 15th, or we make the 15th just whoever wants to show up and wants to present, maybe just a presentation one, but no more massive teaching or anything. And then we do one more week after that. That would be the 22nd. And the 22nd, I would like to actually finish. Yeah. I mean, we can go on for another 2 weeks if you want to, but that would be my goal, to finish it by then, and to have on the 22nd then basically the presentation of the final team work. And then we do a little 20 questions online test, which is damn simple. No, Holger? No? Yes, you do. You too. Not like last time. I remember your results from last time, from the last lecture you did with me. That was awful. So I expect a good result this time, Holger.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really not good. I remember that very well. Because you were too lazy, you didn't want to learn anything. So I see Philip now for the first time. So Philip, you can say something. Do you have anything to add?
No, I agree.
All right, fine. All right, so we agree. We meet on the 8th. Then basically you do the same thing. I have more lecture on the 8th, but not very much. But we'll present the progress of the project again. Then we basically have another week, and I really always ask you to basically work on your launch and work on additional customers, experiments, segments. You should also work on a minimal viable prototype so you can show something. So this is what I expect you to do. And then we meet on the 15th. We'll just we just present the results that you have. And then the 26th, we have a final one. Okay. Yeah. And then you're done. Okay, I wanted to quickly show, but I have experts here on this call that probably know more than I do about it. Because I think that Moritz, I don't know if Anna was part of this too, went to a regulatory workshop with Leon, right? Is that true? So you possibly know more than I do. But I also want to keep it very short because I think that regulatory approval is not necessarily the most important thing for us right now. For us, it's more important to understand the problem, but you should at least quickly know about this. So just to start with, every medical device product needs to go through regulatory approval. Why? But just why do we need to get regulatory approval for a medical device?
Because they will be used for patients. So this.
Yeah. What is the most important thing that you need to find out, or what is the most important criteria for a regulatory? Why do you do this?
Because if I say that this helps in treating a disease, they have to be like efficient in doing that.
No, regulation doesn't care on whether it's efficient.
Consistency and reliability, maybe.
I think what you mean is safety, or so it's patient safety basically. The patient safety is at the core of regulation. For most applications, it's not necessarily checked on whether it's really dramatically better than anything else out on the market. I mean, it should be better than not using it. But these are not the kind of things that you normally have to show. You have to show also when you follow the COVID-19 one, the most important one is patient safety. Of course, now it needs to be a vaccine, it needs to work, right? But patient safety from a regulatory point is the most important thing that you need to check. So there's different, I just want to quickly run through. There is a need to do this. I mean, if you have a wheelchair, for example, you have to ask yourself, is a wheelchair actually a transport device or is it a medical device? Philip, what do you think?
I think both. You can't just order to.
So if you're a wheelchair manufacturer, do you need to get medical certification?
Sorry?
So if you have wheelchair manufacturer, do you need to get medical certification?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think officially you might need one, but just because it's officially a medical device, and so you might.
Well, if it's officially a medical device, you need to get medical certification.
Yeah.
So is it a medical device?
I don't know, but I think it is. Yeah.
Okay, Moritz?
I also don't know, but my feeling tells me it's not.
It's not. It's a transport device. It's a chair, basically. But you still want to have certain certifications done. It doesn't mean that you don't need any certifications, but you don't need medical certification. You need a CE labeling on it, so it's safe to use, but not necessarily a medical certification. Now, my Munevo company, they have a they have a HoloLens, and basically what they do is they steer with their eyes and also with other, they steer the motorized wheelchair. Is that a medical device?
Can you repeat, please, Michael?
So you have some glasses, okay? Some intelligent glasses, some HoloLenses, or some other classes, and they're basically software in there, and they're people sitting in the wheelchair. They're basically cannot use their arms or anything anymore. They steer the wheelchair basically with their eyes. Is that a medical device?
I think it is.
We think
it is. We have come to an agreement that it is, because there it's, I mean, the tracking of your head movements or your eyes needs to work in order to steer the wheelchair safely.
And this has to ensure the safety for the patient who is.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with medical?
Because I mean, in the end, through the reimbursement system or how it is paid for them, it has to be a medical product that he can get it from his insurance paid, something.
No, the insurance
Basically,
has
it's just
to,
a
we have a
different
social
kind of interface,
insurance.
right?
It's not the health insurance, it's social insurance that pays for it.
Okay.
So no, it's not. You don't need to have that. It's not a medical device. It's also basically you need to certify safety, and but you don't necessarily need to have any medical certificate. So when do you need medical certification? Well, that's an important question, right?
Maybe
When
for
it gets
invasive
to the
equipment.
person- Sorry, Moritz.
Maybe for invasive equipment, things like this.
Absolutely.
Pharmaceuticals,
also-
everything what is inserted.
Pharmaceutical is not medical. Pharmaceutical is a completely different regulatory approval. That has nothing to do with so there is something in the medical fields called MDD and MDR. MDD is medical device directive, and MDR is medical device regulation. That's the new one, and they basically are responsible for medical devices. So what is a medical device? So a Verus needle is a medical device.
Every device that you need to cure a person.
Okay. Is a wheelchair not, doesn't it cure something?
No, it doesn't cure. It just makes you transportable. I mean, if you have a broken leg and it's holding up in the chair.
What about the exobot? Is it fixing something?
Is it what?
The exobot?
Is it fixing something?
The exobot, is it curing something?
Yeah, actually it should, because it should not replace, but somehow support the physiotherapist in his daily work and give a treatment to the muscle, like to grow again and to keep care of a good healing.
So I think the exobot yeah, go ahead.
Maybe everything what is related to diagnostic and therapy.
Yes.
As implants.
So the body tune, for example, you measure the auscultation. Is measuring auscultation, does that mean it's a medical device?
No, but for the use to clear up the status of the carotides, then it's
if you use the information to actually create a diagnosis that has a therapy consequence, then it's a medical device. So my little wristband counts my steps and my SpO2, oxygen, and now is this theoretically a medical device now?
No, because it just acquires data.
I am not entirely sure that's true. It's not considered a medical device, but what would it say? So let's make this here. If the SpO2, my oxygen saturation would say 89, what do you think I would do?
True, but does it give you feedback that your heart rate or your O2 consumption is too less or too high? That's the point.
Yeah, but what is it? I mean, if it's wrongly says, for example, it rightfully or wrongly says that my oxygen saturation is at 85%, what is the consequence for me?
You would get alerted and go to a doctor to check up.
That's right. So I believe it has a diagnostic information because it makes me do something. But as long as it's, and then that's a little bit of the definition, as long as it's not used by a medical doctor to really write a prescription or to formulate a therapy, it's not a medical device. So you're right, Moritz, it's basically only for information purposes, but in essence, it does something. You know, it worries you, right? In one way or another. So it needs to be somehow accurate. But the Apple Watch, for example, the iWatch is the first one that is certified as a medical product because the information can be transferred to a doctor and the doctor can then make a decision based on that. Okay, so interesting, and that's I don't want to go into this in depth because there's some, I show you some charts later on, but interesting is when we talk about software. So when is software a medical device? And what kind of classification does it have? So talking about it, classification. So we have three, actually in Germany, we have 4 different types of classification. We have class 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. So which one is getting more worse or more invasive, 1 or 3? Philip?
3.
Okay, Moritz said it already, 3. So the most invasive devices and the ones that actually stay long in the body, like a stent, that stays forever in the body, and that's a class 3 device. A hip implant, what would the hip implant be? 3. Now, what would be a Varus needle? A Varus needle is the needle that Moritz showed. It's a needle you basically stick into the abdomen to create this is what it is. So what is this now?
I would say 2A.
2B or 3.
It's definitely not 3. But I think it's a 2B, but I'm not 100% sure either. But I show you some charts where you can look at that. But depending on the classification of this one, you need to have more or less strict regulatory measures to prove that the thing is safe. So one of the things that you normally do, maybe you started already at Zurich, is something called an FEMA. So what is the failure and effects mode analysis? So what you try to do is you try to say, what if something goes wrong? What is the thing that happens that can cause? So for example, if the Zurich device is not working anymore, what does that cause to the patient?
It can cause serious injuries or death if the needle is inserted.
In essence, I would say nothing, because if he would not have the Zurich, he would still put the needle in, right? So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works wrong, so if it gives you, for example, a green sign and it's actually red, then you're really, then you're really fucked, because then you give a wrong information to the surgeon, and he or she would then maybe puncture an artery. But if it doesn't work at all, if there's a failure, it doesn't do anything to the patient. But these are the kind of things that you have to analyze when you develop the program. What happens? So a complete failure for this Zurich device is not a problem, but a wrongly adjusted audio profile or that could cause serious damage. So and you have to evaluate it based on that. So let's look at some of the charts. So that's what I'm saying. Think about regulation, but do not think too early. But when you are in a development process like Zurich is, you should write all the things down you do. Everything you have done, you should show that you have done a risk analysis. And that's important to also show investors, because they want to know that you are safe on that part. So this is what the FDA would say, and the CE, the European agency too, they would actually look at the severity of harm. So what is the severity of harm when you use a bandage, a plaster?
Marginal.
Maybe you have some allergies, skin allergies, or maybe some reddening. You're not going to die of that, right? So you have a very, very marginal risk. And how often does it happen? Well, even if it happens with every patient, who cares? It's still acceptable. So as long as it's in that yellow box, it's acceptable. Now, the question started is, when do we consider something a remote likelihood that things happen, remote probability. How many cases? 1 in every 10, 1 in every 100, every second one? What is remote? Does anybody know?
I think every manufacturer needs to define that in
No,
his.
no, that's not. No,
risk management.
the chance that something happens, the likelihood. Yeah, the likelihood you actually puncture through or you cause a serious damage at the heart surgery with your catheter. That's a risk you have to. It could break. For example, the guide wire could break. Then you have a guide wire stuck in your cardiac system. How often? What's the chance that happens? You're right. Actually, that's what the manufacturer has to decide, because then he has to go back. But in essence, also with using a Varus needle, how often does a surgeon do it wrong? You know, these are certain likelihoods that things happen, right?
5 to 7%, I would say.
I think I have the number down somewhere. I think something very unlikely, a remote happening is 1 in 1,000 or something, or 1 in 10,000. So it's not like you think it never happens, but that would be when there is a critical outcome. For example, it basically never or almost never happens that a guide wire breaks, but if it breaks, it has some catastrophic effect. Then it would be unacceptable as a risk. So this is why this chart is actually pretty cool, but you need to know, of course, what frequent remote improbable means. And I think I have some, I thought I had some numbers in there. Now, the problem with this one is look at this chart and look at this chart. You see the difference? The difference here is there is only digital. There is acceptable risk or unacceptable risk. There's nothing in between. Now, what we have now, what they're now starting to actually use is something in the middle, as low as reasonable possible. And that means if you have a device or a procedure that could theoretically save somebody's life, but it also comes with high risks, then you can still use it, because the doctor has to decide what is, if I don't use it, I have nothing else available, the patient dies. So the patient dies if you don't use it, and he has a high chance of dying when you use it. It still is allowed to do it. So that's up to the surgeon then to decide. This is then in this orange, in this yellow part here in between. So these are the rules. We don't go into these at all right now, but that's how you can see how things are classified. So for example, if you have a non-invasive device, so we use my body tuner, we use invasive in body. We use rule number 5. That's the Varus needle. So rule number 5, it's invasive in the body. Is it for transient use? Is it for short-term use? So I think it's short-term use. You don't have it very often. So you basically move it. Then it would be considered a 2A device. And if it's for long-term use, it's a 2B device. So these are the kind of charts you can use to determine the classification. And there's more surgical invasive tools for transient use, etc. So you can use these to find out what category they fall into. Okay. Active devices is, for example, a pacemaker, a cardiac pacemaker you would use inside the body. So and you can actually follow now this with the different rules here as well. So this is something for you to find out if you ever decide to create a medical device. Surak is a medical device. The Exobot, I would probably say, is not a medical device. At least that's my understanding. If you put, for example, a brain-computer interface in there, which could be an option for an Exobot, right? You basically think about it, and the Exobot gets it. Then it's definitely a medical device, because now you have an active component in your brain. Yeah. So, and the Exobot itself would not be. So if the Exobot is not a device, not a medical device, but if you would use it together with a brain-computer interface, then it would be a medical device, and the entire system, so the Exobot plus the interface, has to be certified as a medical device. That's why when you, for example, talk with an MRI company about using an MRI system for interventional applications, so for actually using a therapy, they don't like it at all, because their device is certified as a 2A device, a diagnostic imaging system. If you use the system to actually guide a tool, a needle, it's a 2B device. So that means they have to start their whole regulatory process over and do a new certification. That's why they kind of like look away when you do it, and they officially don't allow you to do this. But it's something they don't necessarily want you to do with it.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you. I think that the Exobot is a medical device because you said it should be AI incorporated or BCI. We do BCI because, I mean,
yeah, if you do it, then it is.
The biofeedback actually is you're not putting exactly the electrode in the brain or like not invasive like on the scalp, but we use sensor to detect the muscular activity, and based on the feedback,
Then it probably is.
And it gets feedback, so it's a closed loop or also
yes,
open
then
loop.
it probably is.
And also you have the EMS, the electronic muscle stimulation.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
then it probably is. So then it's bad for you. But on the other hand, you know, everything that is bad has also a good component, because if you're the first one who files it as a medical device, you have a competitive advantage because everybody else needs to do that too. So, and if you have actually jumped over that hurdle and you had received this certification, then nobody else can sell in this market till they have their certification done. So it also has some advantages. I want to do a quick outlook on intellectual property, because that's also important when you do innovation, because you sometimes have to show people that you are a cool guy and you have a patent on it. Now, is intellectual property only patents? Philip? Your intellectual property, you're the property of your brain, right? Your intellect can be written down as a patent. What other things are intellectual property?
I also thought about this, and my first thought was about publication. So if you publish some ideas, some theories, and it's maybe yours, so you have to maybe you have to prove somehow that it's from your origin.
But the problem with publications is, and that's a very important thing, if you have published it, it's public domain. You have basically made it accessible to everybody, and everybody can use it.
Okay.
You have no right of ownership to things that you have published.
Okay.
If you have not filed a patent before. What else is intellectual property? How about software code?
Okay.
How about a brand name, the Apple logo?
I think.
How about a recipe? You know, Coca-Cola. It's not a patented, but it's a recipe. It's intellectual property. It's only like 3 people in the world who know it. Nobody else knows it. What else? Anything else?
Concept of a car motor or concept of a battery, maybe?
Yeah, as long as you don't patent it, then and you don't tell anybody. That there's always the problem with either telling people about it, then you made it public domain, or not telling it, then it's your own idea, and then it's intellectual property. It's owned by me. I own it. I don't tell anybody else, right? The only way to get out of this publication issue is by filing a patent first. A patent basically is an official statement that you have a monopoly in a market. Is a monopoly legal? Monopoly is not legal. Monopoly is basically in the finance world or in the economic world where you dominate a certain market, and a monopoly is actually not legal. The only exception is that the patents allow you for a certain amount of time to have a monopoly, a market, or a certain idea that you claim is only to you, but it's only time limited. So Beatrice, do you have any idea how long patents are valid for?
It depends how much you pay for.
No, has nothing to do with that.
Watch, and like if you buy a patent for 30 years.
Yeah, but it depends. If you decide you don't want to pay the patent fees anymore, you basically say I'm giving up on the patent.
Yeah, but you need to transfer your intellectual property to someone that is paying instead of you.
No, if you file a patent today, how long is it valid?
If
It has nothing to do with money. If you file a patent today, how long is it valid?
20 years.
20 years.
Okay.
There's absolutely nothing. It's 20 years, done. It has
Isn't
nothing
there
to do
also
with
the
how much money you pay.
possibility of prolong a patent?
No.
Have you heard of something like that? No.
That's why people normally, you should never do one patent. You should always try to do continuous patents, patent, and you can build upon your own technology, and you kind of like make new developments dependent on a previous patent application. But a patent, a technology you describe is valid 20 years, and you cannot prolong it. The only way to prolong it is to maybe add new technologies and new innovation on top of it. So let's go quickly through. So these are the different types of IPs that are around. So general know-how, I know how to do it, but I'm not telling you how it's been done. That's IP. Designs that you register, copyrights. So music is, I think music is 50 years, I think, protected. So it's longer than a patent. And I think if you're an author, so Karl May, for example, is a famous German author. I think that was protected for 100 years. And now it's public domain. Now everybody can use it.
Where is software in? Copyright?
Software is actually not protectable. Software you cannot patent, but what you can patent is an algorithm. So if you have an algorithm and an approach, like you basically can patent a workflow or a way of actually doing things, which is then done by software. But you first do this, then you do this, and then you use that information to do this. This is a building blocks. That one you can patent, the schematics, but the software code itself, not. So when you copy software and you use it, that's completely legal. Or you have and that's why people do the source codes, right? So you cannot really get to it. They somehow hide it. So typically it's not protected. Okay, what is the requirement for a patent? I think we want to limit the quick discussion on the patent. It should be new, it should be inventive, it should be industrially applicable. These are important things. So just something new. You remember, Anna, what was my definition of innovative?
It was not only new, that much I remember.
So it was invention times commercialization. You kind of like already know in this formula, you have several aspects. Inventive is, of course, inventive. It is also new. And now industrially applicable is the commercialization approach. If you cannot ever make that, you cannot ever do it, and it's not something you can build, it's actually not patentable. Yeah. And you obviously need to sufficiently describe it. And normally what they say is that if you have so what is Zorak? Zorak is a signal processing electrical engineering topic, right?
Yeah, more or less.
So you would say you need to describe it so that somebody in this field, an electrical engineer, understands what you're doing. So they would not ask a mechanical engineer, they would not ask a chemist, they would say somebody on the electrical engineer who needs to understand it. And that's how it has to be described. Yeah. So you need to always, you always go from an expert point of view that should be able to read and understand your patent. That was an important one, by the way. Do not publish, Philip, beforehand. If you publish something, it's not patentable anymore. And there's a lot of scientists, and maybe I point to Beatrice now, in your organization, they publish all kinds of crap, and they always forget to patent it. And that's why a LIN, for example, how many patents does a LIN come up every year? Any idea? I would say maybe 5. And that's already a lot if they come up with 5. Now, Inca does more than 5 patents, just as a little club, but we think about patents differently than LIN. LIN is a research institution. They don't necessarily think about patents. And that's why they publish that, because it's cool to publish and we have a Nature paper, but the underlying concept they have forgotten to actually patent. And then it's used, and then everybody, it's public domain, everybody can use it as soon as you publish it.
But I think it's also because they were paid or get funded because of publications and not because of patents. Yeah,
the problem is a little bit that it typically takes a long time for patents. You have to go through, in the case of Otto von Guericke University, you would have to file an invention disclosure. Then they have 3 months time for the university to say, oh, maybe we don't want it, maybe we don't. Then maybe they say we want it. Then they take another 3 to 6 months to actually formulate this patent. And then it's maybe filed a year later. So the researcher needs to have results, right? And he does not necessarily want to wait for 12 months. And so they very often say, we don't really care about the patents. We want to have this journal paper out there, and we cannot wait for this patent to be filed. And that's how it's lost. That's how technology is lost. And that happens very frequently in Germany. So do not publish, very important. Or publish something that is not patent relevant. We have also tried to do actually certain things where we published before, and we have tried to actually avoid mentioning anything that could lead to the patent. Okay, I think I don't need to say that. So it needs to be obviously new. It needs to be independently conceived. There be skilled people around. You can actually check lots of databases. So Google has its own patents database. I think you can just put Google patents down there, and you can actually find all types of patents. You can put like search terms in it, and you can find what is relevant. Okay, so I'm gonna jump over this. This is, I think, another important thing that I want to say. So 20 years was clear. You normally have to file after, so make this example. You file the patent on January 1st, 2020. Then you have to actually file international protection 18 months later. So that will be on the 1st of July, 2021. By then you have to say, I filed the German patent first, but now I also want to file the American patent or the Chinese patent or the Indian patent or whatever. Or you can do after 12 months, you can say that you would like to file a PCT. That's another form of patent filing that's signed up by a lot of international countries. And then you can delay the process by another 18 months. So then it's after 30 months you have the nationalization. And it's officially published, the patent, after 18 months. Why does it take so long to be published? Anybody know? Nobody? Moritz, you don't know that? Why does it take 18 months?
I mean, I think they have to check first if any other patents
There's nothing to do with it.
are in conflict with it.
You don't even have to, you can even say that I don't want you to even check on whether that, you can tell the patent office, here's my patent filing, but you know what, don't even look at it. Doesn't matter at the moment. So why does it take 18 months? It's actually done to protect the inventor, because the inventor now has 18-month time, 18-month lead time before anybody else knows what the patent is all about. It's a pure protection for the inventor. So you have an 18-month time before anybody will ever read what you filed as a patent. So the Zorak patents, most of them are not even published yet. Nobody knows that you have a patent on it, and nobody knows what's in that. And that's to your advantage, because otherwise people could try to copy it and maybe do a little bit of a difference in there, and then try to actually come up with something else. So it's very important to have that. Okay. Now, typically the patent application costs you about 2.5 to 5,000 euros, and you can actually do it yourself. So if anybody is actually interested in writing a patent, so you can do that, Beatrice, yourself, and it costs you only 60 euros to file a patent. That's the filing fee with the German Patent Agency. That's all it costs you if you write it yourself, the patent. Now, I'm not saying that that is an easy task to do and that you're very successful. I have actually written patents myself before. I've even gotten one approved, but it was not a very good patent. It was not a very valuable one. But you don't have to have a patent attorney for it. Okay. So I would just tell you that, particularly in the medical field, and if you want to get money, you should actually have some patents. If you don't have patents, it will be a little bit more difficult to actually get investors excited about it. So that obviously doesn't count for software, because software is difficult to patent or impossible to patent. But for medical devices, I would really recommend you have some patents in place. Why are you laughing, Moritz?
Just a little disappointed that I cannot patent software.
No, again, you can't. I think, and I have to go back. I'm not 100% patent expert on all the aspects, but I think you can patent software much better in the US. In Germany, it's not possible, or in Europe. But you can, again, you can file a method. So you can actually say, so for example, use the flowchart for Surac. So we do a signal processing, filtering first, signal processing. This block diagram, you can patent that. Yeah, which is actually almost a little bit more powerful, because you could, for example, I do a filtering. We don't necessarily have to describe whether you use a Fourier filter or whatever filter. It's a filtering, e.g., for example, by Fourier methodology, by a low pass filtering or whatever. Yeah. Okay, so actually let's cut this one short. I think I'm gonna cut this one too. I wanted to check out this Miro board, but we're not doing it now. We'll do it next time. I want to try it out really, this pen. So I wanted you guys to actually think about on how we could add to this device that's Ali's from our team, Ali's device. How can we make that exponential? And we do this exercise next time. Just use any project and think about how we can make this concept now exponential. Yeah, and because that's actually a very powerful thing to continue to think not only about the product, but what kind of features do I put in? How do I actually present it to actually come up with some exponential attributes? For Surac, for example, I would do that clearly. I would just think about different methodologies of different products, and then think about what kind of things do I have to add to it to make it more exponential? Staff on demand, leverage assets. What can I use? And what could they look like? So that's actually an exercise I would like to do next time. And next time, so the next couple of times we don't do that much lecture anymore. We're basically to a large extent done with it. And then we would do these kind of exercises to get more depth into it. Okay, I think we'll cut to this one. So this is the design rules. I think I have come up with like lots of, I've explained that many times before, that you don't just produce a product. You need to actually look for, time savings, cost savings. You have to have a clear product requirement strategy on it. So these are the development rules you should follow. You should have the human factors in. You should know what the use of the device is, how it's being used. And you should check that out and you should optimize. And that's actually good design rules. That's why I also put that on the front page, the first slide of that lecture. Okay. Ethics, yeah, I put this down here. You definitely have to consider ethical design considerations, at least if you have some software and some AI included, because you need to know where the data comes from and on whether the data actually discriminates anybody. Okay. So that's unfortunately is healthcare is something that goes really slow. We could develop significantly faster and quicker, but then we are kind of like there's a brake system, and the brake system is regulatory approval. The braking system is we don't have the finances available. The braking system to a large extent is the users. Doctors don't like to change what they have had for the last 20 years. So it goes a lot slower, even though startups don't have enough time for that. Okay. I just want to show you one quick thing, and you can listen to a video, and I have the link for that, so we don't look at that. if you really want to dive into, and that's for a subsequent check, if you want to dive into specific problems that you have, you know, with your device, and you want to find something out, you can do something that is called a design sprint. You just take 4 or 5. Holger, you were when we were up in the Thüringer Wald. Moritz was there too. Were you guys there?
No, not yet.
But Holger was there. We did something like a design sprint. We had a problem, and we tried to address this problem. You actually follow a certain process, and this process is. Let me just go to the next one. The process is kind of like shown here. It goes typically over a week, where you try to actually map the problem, and then you try to put some sketches together, and then you create a storyboard, and then you prototype. And the whole thing you can actually listen to in this sprint process. So listen to this video. I'll send you, as always, the slides in the right after the presentation, and that's really nice to give you just another input. Normally, people don't have a week time. So the process that we used in Oberhof when we were there and with the Inca, we used an abbreviated version. And you can also use that, but that's very powerful to get people in and to have them work on a specific problem and to come up with solutions. It's really, really interesting. So please have a look at that, just so you'll be able to use that maybe in your future innovation process. Okay. Okay. I think that's the only one I have this today. What's this?
A base cap with headphones.
Oh God.
We already had this, I think.
Exactly.
We did have that already?
Yeah.
Damn it. See, so much I look for that. Maybe I have another one in there. Let me see if I have another one. We'll take this one then. Yeah, there's another one. So let's go there. So what's this? Do we have this one already?
No.
Last cookie on the table.
Oh, Victoria's still there too. I'm happy to see you because you're out of my. I only have 5 always on there, so you dropped out this time. So what is it? You said something, Victoria?
Yeah, it's maybe the ground cut of a shower, where in the bigger square there is the shower place and the rest is the bathroom.
Interesting.
The bull's eye of a ship that is passing by.
Also interesting.
A locker.
I'm not saying it's wrong what you say, you know, it probably could be, but if it's sea, you probably have wiggly lines down there, right? For the sea, for the waves.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe it's calm water, right? All right. I've heard too. Pretty simple. Okay, so we'll go out again. So let me see how much more I have. I don't have that much more, and then we go quickly through. I just wanted to give you also a little bit on financing. I know that Sorag is a little bit in the process of at least finding some financings in the next at least few months, at least initially. So can you see that all, or is it covered, the last part? I like Dilbert, so if I'm a very passionate Dilbert reader, because it always goes about business and about work environment. So the worst thing is if you present to an investor that you need some arbitrary number and you cannot back it up. But it's obviously necessary to have some money. So, you know, Beatrice, I'm thinking about you. Your Exabot probably needs quite a bit of money. You have any idea how much you need for your Exabot? Is Beatrice still there?
At least 5 million.
No idea about that.
What was that?
No idea. I don't know.
No idea. No idea is not something you can communicate to an investor, right?
I would say 5 million.
I think the Exabot is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Now, remember Launchpad, the Launchpad exercise. You're basically trying to actually go through this spiral process and try to actually find out what the problem is. You actually try to validate to a certain point of view, and then you actually try to implement the ideas. This is a little bit what this investor readiness level says. You may have heard about this one before, IRL. In the EU projects, for example, they always say we fund projects that are at IRL level 4, and we want after the funding it to be IRL 6. So we want that the money that we give you in this public funding, for example, helps you to reach a different investor readiness level. And that basically means, when is somebody willing to invest in a company, in a product? What does need to be done before I'm interested in it? So we are basically doing right now the first pass canvas. We're a little bit beyond that. Maybe we actually have done already some of the market analysis. Maybe we have actually done the problem solution validation. So that's about the most that we will get out of this course here. You are at IRL 3 maybe at the most, probably rather 2. So possibly not enough for anybody to invest in you. So you need to do more validation. You need to probably build a first prototype. You have to see whether it's really you understand the customer right. You have the value proposition in place. So if you have all that done, you have a higher investor readiness level. And this spiral approach that we do helps you to reach this investor readiness level faster than if you would just build a prototype. If you just build a prototype, yes, you have built a prototype. You have not done anything else. You have not done anything that an investor is looking for. The investor wants to know the market, the validation, is the value propositions, are they right? So please consider that is what we are doing here, what we're trying to get into the conceptual stage from your projects right now. It's actually something that is incredibly important, because you need to communicate that later on when you need money. So for a medtech product, you typically have to stay in this. You have to be in this phase. If you are not in this phase, you will not get any money. So if you have only a team or a compelling need, it's not good enough. But if you start having a patent on it, and you have actually checked you have a minimal viable prototype, and you have actually shown that the customer is really interested, that's about a good time to actually get to talk to a investor. Now, what do you think that will look like when you look at biotech, pharma? Is that going to be more up or more down? It's actually more down, so it's earlier. You can get earlier money on the bio stage, because what they do is you don't have to go for market so much. If you have a cancer therapy, you know that there's a market for it, right? But you basically show certain ways of having a cancer therapy pharma. On whether it works, you don't know, and that's what you need money for. So the market is there, you know the market, right? If you have if you want to develop something for breast cancer, you know that there's breast cancer case. You don't have to validate that. So it's typically a little earlier. And then I just want to throw this one up here. I like this chart a lot, the iceberg chart, because that's typically what people see when you actually start a project or even start a company. They see either people being successful or not successful. And what do we Germans love? We love to actually make fun of the people who are not successful. Even though there could be plenty of reasons why they were not successful. The market was wrong, was too early. There's a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with your own capabilities. But what they don't see is all this stuff that is under the visible line. All the things that we are doing right now is checking the markets, having a lot of failures included. That's part of actually doing, getting money and being successful with the project. Okay, so this is also a nice chart. I like this one a lot too. I had a lot of companies that were in the front part. So early when it starts to go up right away, they said, we have 3 customers, we are cool, we sell this device. And then we actually found 3 out of the possible 3 customers, and then no more customers. And then maybe customer used it and thought, it's really not that good. Really doesn't solve our problems. And then you typically go as a startup company to what we call the drought of sorrow. So sad. I'm so, I tried all this stuff. So it's like a little bit of a depressive state. And then you may actually work up and find another market for it, and then actually eventually goes up. So Whenever you see in a business plan on a plan, you very often will see that it's called a hockey stick, right? So first we need some money, and then we actually have the customer, and then it will go up, and then we will be billionaires. This is probably what Moritz will do in his business plan. I will say that in 2027 we will make 10 million revenue, and in 2029 we have conquered the world. This is like typically how the companies are shown, but that's complete crap. No company ever works that way. They work like this. And be a little bit more realistic, but on the other hand, if you're too realistic, you will not get any money either, because people are not excited about your potential opportunities. So you need to find somewhat of a middle way. And obviously you need to find out how do you, not only how do you come up with money, but how do you actually pay money back? A very important thing. I had one company now that that believed that they are worth 10 million. Now, let's make it easy. They're worth 9 million euros. And they wanted to acquire 1 million. So what is the company worth after this 1 million investment? 10 million, right? So very easy. I make it simple for you guys. You all advanced scholars. You should have this done. So how many percent does this company own now? This investment company? Greater 50%, smaller 50. So they invested 1 million in a valuation of 10 million is how much do they own? 10%. So what do you think an investment company has as a goal of return? How much money do they want to get back when they invest 1 million in it? What do they expect? 10%? More?
More than 10.
Yeah, how much more? Tell me what is an investor normally expects, like a venture capital investor? Huh?
20 to 25 at least, but probably more.
250% at least. That's the minimum. Typically, if you cannot show them that, you are actually paying them back at least 2.5, better 5 to 10 times their investment, they will not invest. So I just want to make this example easy. So if you invest 1 million, so what is the return they expect? 5 million, right? If they own 10% and you have to pay back 5 million, how much profit do you have to make? 50 million to pay them back the 5 million, right? At some point in time. So this is what you need to understand, is that if you have a small market and you need a lot of money, probably nobody will invest because it's just not worth it for them. They much rather invest in a big market, and then big monies in a big market are not that relevant. So for Surak, speaking for Surak or for Exobot, if you need 3 million, but the company, the global market will only ever be 30 million, nobody will invest money in this because it's just not worth it from an investment point of view. So have a little bit of an idea, not only of how much money you need, but what the market is. That's why it's important to know the market, and it's also important of what are you actually proposing the investor to get back. Very important things. So this is a little bit, this chart that's for Surak also very important right now, because if you want to have investors in there, this is what happens. Every time you have a new finance round, there is new people coming in, and your own shares will be divested or will be diluted. Okay, we don't want to go into this one in detail now. I can talk to you about this one. And you, of course, need to have a good product. A shitty product doesn't help anyone. And that's why we do this, this Purpose Launchpad, to find out on whether we have a good product, what it is, and whether this product is actually needed by anybody. Okay. And I think I'm going to skip this one here because you can read this and everybody wants to go home. Me too, for that matter, because I'm actually on that video screen for too long already. But look at the business model canvas, and that's maybe one of the last things I say. Everything on the right is related to the customer. You have the value proposition in the middle, you have the customer on the right, and you have to make sure that the customer understands what you're offering. So it needs to be desirable. On the left side is everything on this business model canvas says, what do I need to get it done? I need software engineers, I need a big server room, I need finances. So is that something that I can get done? Is it feasible? And then at the bottom, you have the cost and the revenue. Now, if cost is higher than revenue, it's not viable. It's not a business. So you need to also understand that only if all these 3 points come together, it is actually something from a hypothetical point of view, it is something that is valuable to an investor. Okay. And then I have for you, but we don't do this anymore, we have the canvas of Google. So we have, I think we have done part of that already. So you understand how the value proposition is and the customers are transformed and how money is actually from a revenue is being generated. And what are the most important key resources that you need. This is the business plan of Google. So all that is. And then there's the business plan of Nespresso. So the coffee tablets in there. I think I've mentioned that before too. Nespresso is not manufacturing a coffee machine. They only manufacture the coffee tablets. They don't really care whether you buy a Siemens, a Nestle or whatever machine. They don't care. They only want you to buy the Nespresso from them, the capsules. This is a repetitive business model. It's much more interesting than only selling one time a coffee machine. This is why I like the concept of Zurich to a certain extent too, when we have the clip-ons. This is the Nespresso part of this business. Okay, so we're at the end. So what I want you to do is to, let me see. No, I don't want you to do this. This is 20 minutes. I also don't want you to do this. Please go through your project again. Discuss, try to improve the things that you can do, try to do some customer experiments. Just play the whole thing through, maybe design a minimal viable prototype, talk to people, get feedback, learn something. And please put this on a little file, on a little a presentation that we can share then on, when was it, the 8th? January 8th. So you have plenty of time, and we are all locked up. You can actually spend tons of time of designing these kind of things because you'll be bored to death anyway. So do some of these things. Also, I have this individual assignment. This is not, you don't have to get it done, but I am very interested, and that's why I put this down is, so Anna, you are what would you consider yourself? What is your job description?
Engineer, I guess.
What kind of engineer?
Electrical. With the
so maybe you say a biomedical engineer. Yeah. So why don't you look at that from a biomedical engineering perspective? What do you think will happen to your job in the next 20 years?
Gone.
No, I'm not sure that it's gone. I'm not saying that. But what will be needed? You know, what do you think will be needed in terms of education? What will be the jobs that you will do? You know, also maybe you have some ideas of what you would suggest people to innovate in that segment. So just have a little bit of a futuristic view, because that's also what universities need. The universities need to understand that these jobs will all change, and they should actually adapt to not presence, but maybe future-oriented teaching. Now, Victoria is going to be a medical doctor, right? So what is the role of a medical doctor in the future?
It's gone.
How will he or she, you know, be involved? What kind of tools will he or she have? What kind of education will a medical doctor in 2035 do? Yeah. So think a little bit about it. And I particularly like these ideas because they are with that you can actually focus and change you know, certain teaching aspects as well. So Philip, what is your job description also?
Yeah, I'm also a medical student, so
So you do the same thing then from your perspective. I'd be interested to see. Just assume you will be. What will your specialization be? What do you think? Any idea already?
This is a really difficult question, but I am generally interested in surgery.
So you will be the future surgeon. So you do the future surgeon. Victoria, what are you? Urologist?
Yes.
So just pick one, okay?
Okay.
So what is your current interest? What would you do as a specialization, Victoria?
Yeah,
You don't know?
I don't know. All of them.
All of them. Don't do a radiologist, okay? So okay. This will be later. No, some of you have done it already. Beatrice has done it already. So you can also, if you have nothing else to do this bonus assignment, your personal MTP, not the company's MTP, not the project's MTP, your personal MTP. Yes, and the group assignment, so that's just a repeat screen on this one. Ah, that's what I see. I was looking for this chart. I couldn't find it. So January 8, January 15, January 26. So we have, so I set it all, and it's all the way we decided. And then I had this Miro board down there, which I wanted to try out for the next breakout session. We'll try that out next time. Okay. I am basically done.